Confidence isn't always destroyed by one big failure. It's chipped away little by habits we don't even realize we've picked up. The way you talk to yourself, the way you handle mistakes, even the way you interact with people every day can either build your confidence or break it down. If you've ever wondered why you feel stuck, doubtful, or never good enough, chances are it's not bad luck. It's hidden habits that are quietly holding you back. Negative self-talk is one of the most damaging habits that quietly eats away at a person's confidence because it doesn't shout, it whispers, and those whispers repeat themselves so often that they eventually sound like truth. Most people don't even realize how much of their day is filled with tiny comments directed inward that hold them back. It can be something as small as looking in the mirror and thinking, I look terrible today, or making a mistake at work and saying to yourself, I'm so stupid. Those words seem harmless in the moment, almost like they don't matter. But when they are repeated day after day, they start to build a permanent narrative in your mind. Your brain is always listening, and when it hears those negative scripts over and over, it accepts them as fact. That acceptance changes the way you act, the way you carry yourself, and the way you take on opportunities. Over time, you don't even notice that you've stopped trying new things because the voice in your head has already convinced you that you'll fail. Confidence isn't something that's only built in public moments like a presentation or a meeting. It's being shaped quietly every single day by the conversation you're having with yourself. If that conversation is harsh, judgmental, and unforgiving, then no matter how many external achievements you gain, you'll still feel small on the inside. People can compliment you, you can succeed in school or work, you can even be admired by others, but if your inner voice is telling you that you're not enough, you will never fully believe in yourself. This is why negative self-talk is so destructive. It makes the foundation of confidence unstable. You can decorate it on the outside with achievements or validation, but inside it's weak and ready to collapse. What makes this habit even more dangerous is how subtle it is. No one else hears those comments but you. If a friend spoke to you the way you speak to yourself, you would probably cut them out of your life. Yet because the words come from within, you tolerate them. You even justify them as motivation. You might think being hard on yourself will push you to do better, but the truth is, it often has the opposite effect. It creates fear instead of drive. You don't want to take risks because the voice already told you that you're not capable. You don't want to put yourself out there because you're already bracing for the insult you'll throw at yourself if it doesn't work out. That's not motivation, that's sabotage. Another problem is that negative self-talk doesn't stay contained to your thoughts. It leaks out into your behavior. You might hesitate to speak up in a meeting because deep down you believe your opinion doesn't matter. You might struggle in relationships because you feel unworthy of love or respect. You might avoid challenges because your brain has convinced you that you'll only embarrass yourself. These choices pile up. They start to shape your life in ways you don't notice until you look back and realize you've been living smaller than you should. The habit often comes from childhood or past experiences. Maybe you grew up hearing criticism more than praise. Maybe someone made you feel like your best was never enough. Or maybe you internalized failure as proof of who you are instead of just something that happened. Over time, those voices became your own. That's why breaking free from negative self-talk is difficult. It's not just about silencing a random thought. It's about unlearning years of conditioning. Replacing those thoughts takes practice. It starts with awareness. Catching yourself in the moment when you say something cruel in your head and asking if you would say the same thing to someone you love. It requires choosing kinder language, even if it feels unnatural at first, because your brain needs new scripts to repeat until they become the default. Confidence grows when you start giving yourself permission to be human, to make mistakes, and to still see value in yourself regardless. The reality is everyone talks to themselves, but not everyone realizes how much power that voice has. It can be the biggest critic that destroys your confidence or the greatest ally that builds it, and the choice lies in what words you allow to take root inside your head. Comparing yourself to others is one of the quickest ways to drain your confidence because it shifts your focus from your own progress to someone else's highlight reel. It happens almost automatically in today's world, where you open your phone and see a constant stream of people posting their achievements, their vacations, their perfectly curated lives. Without even thinking, you measure your behind the scenes against their carefully chosen moments, and of course, you end up feeling like you're behind. The truth is, comparison is unfair from the start because you're taking all of your struggles, doubts, and mistakes and weighing them against the polished version of someone else that you're allowed to see. That comparison will never be balanced, yet your brain convinces you that it's real and that somehow you're losing. Confidence is built on self-trust and self-acknowledgement, but comparison steals that by making you believe your progress doesn't matter. You might have worked hard to get where you are, you might have overcome challenges that no one else knows about, but the moment you see someone else doing better in a certain area, you discount everything you've achieved. That instant dismissal of your own journey chips away at your belief in yourself. You stop celebrating your wins because they don't look as big as someone else's. You stop moving forward because you're too focused on what lane they're running in rather than your own. The more you compare, the more you convince yourself that you're never enough, and confidence cannot grow in that environment. The dangerous part of this habit is that it rarely motivates. People often think comparison will push them to work harder, but most of the time it does the opposite. Instead of fueling effort, it fuels discouragement. You start to think, what's the point of trying if someone else is always ahead? You downplay your own strengths because they don't look like someone else's. You chase validation in the wrong areas because you think matching them will finally make you feel good enough. That cycle creates constant dissatisfaction, even when you do achieve things, because you're always looking sideways instead of forward. Comparison also blinds you to the uniqueness of your path. Everyone has a different starting line, different resources, different struggles, and different timelines. When you forget that and hold yourself to someone else's standard, you set yourself up for constant frustration. Imagine judging a runner for not finishing a race at the same time as someone who started miles ahead. It makes no sense, yet that's exactly what happens when you compare your life to another person's. You miss the fact that your own race might have challenges they've never faced or victories they'll never experience. Confidence comes from recognizing that your path is your own, not from trying to make it look like theirs. Another hidden effect of constant comparison is resentment. Instead of being inspired by others, you start to feel bitter toward them, even if they did nothing to you. Their success feels like your failure because comparison tricks you into believing there's only room for one winner. That mindset isolates you, makes it harder to build supportive relationships, and leaves you stuck in a place of jealousy rather than growth. The resentment doesn't just hurt your relationships with others, it deepens the lack of trust you have in yourself because you're measuring your value on someone else's scoreboard. This habit often starts small. You might compare clothes, jobs, relationships, or even personality traits. Over time, it becomes so automatic that you don't even notice it anymore. It feels natural to think they're smarter, they're more attractive, they're more successful, they're happier. The repetition of those thoughts becomes a silent background noise in your life, and that noise constantly lowers your sense of worth. It's like carrying a weight that no one else sees, but it's always there pulling your shoulders down. The way out of comparison is not to ignore other people, but to shift your focus back to yourself. Confidence grows when you track your own progress, when you measure today against yesterday instead of against someone else's today. It grows when you recognize that the qualities you have are not supposed to look like anyone else's, because they are uniquely yours. The truth is, there will always be someone ahead of you in some area, just like there will always be someone behind you, but neither of those facts should define how you see yourself. What defines confidence is whether or not you believe in your own growth, your own worth, and your own direction, regardless of what anyone else is doing. Avoiding challenges is one of those habits that feels safe in the moment, but slowly erodes your confidence over time because every time you back away from something difficult, you reinforce the belief that you can't handle it. Confidence isn't built in comfort zones. It's built in the moments when you step into discomfort and prove to yourself that you're capable. Yet many people avoid challenges because of fear of failing, fear of looking foolish, fear of disappointing others, or fear of discovering they're not as capable as they want to believe. That fear feels protective, but it's actually destructive because it keeps you from ever gathering the evidence you need that you can overcome obstacles. Without that evidence, your confidence weakens day by day. The tricky part is that avoiding challenges doesn't feel destructive right away. It feels like relief. You skip speaking up in a meeting and you instantly avoid the anxiety of being judged. You turn down a new opportunity at work because you don't want the pressure, and it feels easier in the moment. You don't confront a tough conversation in a relationship because it feels less stressful to just stay quiet. Each time you make those choices, you reward yourself with temporary comfort. But what you don't see is the cost, the long-term message you're sending to yourself that you're not strong enough or skilled enough to handle those moments. That message repeats over time until it becomes part of how you see yourself. Confidence thrives on small wins, those little moments where you step up, try something difficult and succeed, or even just survive. But if you avoid challenges, you never give yourself those wins. You rob yourself of the chance to see your own strength. Instead, you create a loop where the challenge looks scarier each time you dodge it. The more you avoid, the more intimidating it becomes, and soon you start believing you're someone who simply can't face hard things. That belief is the opposite of confidence, because confidence is rooted in the idea that no matter what comes your way, you can figure it out. This habit can also show up in subtle ways. It might not be obvious, like turning down a big promotion or refusing a huge opportunity. Sometimes it's as small as not asking a question in class because you don't want to seem dumb, or not trying a new skill because you don't want to fail at the start. Those small choices might not seem like a big deal, but they accumulate. Every avoided challenge becomes a missed opportunity to build resilience. Over months and years, that adds up to a lack of trust in yourself. You start hesitating, not just in big moments, but in everyday situations, because you've trained your brain to think avoidance is the safest option. Another effect of avoiding challenges is regret. Deep down, you know when you've backed away from something that mattered. You might tell yourself you didn't really want it, or it wasn't the right time, but inside there's a part of you that recognizes the truth. That recognition doesn't disappear, it lingers. Regret quietly eats away at your confidence because it's a constant reminder that you let fear make the decision for you. Over time, that regret can turn into self-doubt, and self-doubt is one of the biggest enemies of confidence. Many times people believe that avoiding challenges protects them from failure, but the reality is it guarantees a kind of failure, the failure to grow. You might not experience the embarrassment of trying and stumbling, but you also don't experience the pride of trying and succeeding. You trade short-term comfort for long-term dissatisfaction. Confidence is not about never failing. It's about knowing you can get back up after failure. By avoiding challenges, you deny yourself the proof that you can bounce back, and without that proof, your belief in yourself weakens. It's important to remember that challenges are not meant to expose your weaknesses. They are meant to strengthen your abilities. Every challenge you face becomes part of the evidence your brain uses to decide whether or not you can trust yourself. If you face it and get through it, even imperfectly, your brain learns I can handle hard things. If you avoid it, your brain learns I'm not strong enough. That learning compounds over time, and that's why avoiding challenges is such a destructive habit for confidence. It's not just about the challenge in front of you, it's about the message you're teaching yourself every time you choose to step back instead of stepping forward. Seeking constant approval is one of those hidden habits that seems harmless on the surface but quietly erodes your confidence because it trains you to measure your worth by someone else's reaction instead of your own sense of value. At first, it might feel good to be validated, to hear that you did a good job, to see a nod of approval, or to get recognition for your efforts. That external feedback feels rewarding, but the problem is when you become dependent on it. When your confidence relies on someone else's words, expressions, or opinions, you no longer control how you feel about yourself. You hand over the steering wheel of your self-worth to people who may not always be consistent, kind, or even aware of the impact they have on you. The danger of seeking constant approval is that it makes you second-guess yourself. Instead of trusting your instincts, you pause and wonder how others will see it. Instead of making decisions based on your goals or values, you adjust to fit what you think will gain the most praise. You change your behavior, your choices, sometimes even your personality to match the expectations of those around you. Each time you do that, you send a subtle signal to yourself that your natural self isn't good enough, that you have to mold into what others want in order to be accepted. Over time, that belief sinks in deeply and leaves your confidence fragile because it rests on approval that you can't control. Another destructive aspect of this habit is how exhausting it becomes. When you live in constant pursuit of approval, you are always on stage, always performing. Every word, every action, every step feels like it's under review. That pressure takes energy and creates anxiety, and it leaves little space for authenticity. You can never fully relax because your mind is always scanning the room for reactions and recalibrating based on them. Instead of living freely, you live cautiously, and cautious living chips away at self-assurance because you are no longer operating from your own center. It also makes you vulnerable to manipulation. When someone knows you crave approval, they can use it to control you. A simple withdrawal of praise or a disapproving look can push you into doubt and make you adjust your behavior to win it back. In relationships, in the workplace, or even in social groups, this dependency places power in someone else's hands. True confidence means standing firm in who you are, regardless of whether others applaud or criticize, but constant approval seeking keeps you chasing after validation like a moving target. The cycle often starts in small ways. Maybe as a child you were rewarded only when you performed well, so you learned that approval equaled worth. Maybe you feared disappointing people around you, so you became skilled at reading their reactions and shaping yourself to please them. Maybe rejection or criticism in the past made you believe you had to earn love or acceptance. Whatever the origin, the habit becomes ingrained, and breaking it feels uncomfortable because without approval, you feel exposed. That discomfort keeps many people locked in the cycle, repeating behaviors that prevent them from ever feeling truly secure in themselves. One of the most damaging effects of this habit is how it keeps you from taking risks. If your self-worth depends on approval, then failure feels too dangerous. You hesitate to try new things, to step outside the familiar, because what if people don't approve? That hesitation stunts growth and keeps you stuck in safe but limiting patterns. Confidence is built in the willingness to act without a guarantee of praise, but if approval is your fuel, you will never move unless someone else lights the fire. The truth is, no amount of external approval will ever be enough to replace the lack of internal belief. You can get 100 compliments and still focus on the one criticism. You can receive recognition but still feel empty the moment it fades. That's because external approval is temporary, it lasts only as long as it's being given. Real confidence is lasting because it comes from within, from knowing your worth even when no one is clapping. Seeking approval might give you a quick boost, but it's like building your house on shifting sand. Every wave of opinion moves the foundation, and you are left scrambling to keep your balance. Perfectionism is one of the most deceptive habits that destroys confidence because it disguises itself as high standards and motivation when in reality it's fear in a polished costume. On the outside, it can look like ambition, discipline, or a commitment to excellence. But on the inside, it is driven by the belief that nothing you do is ever enough. It convinces you that if you can just make everything flawless, then you will finally feel worthy, finally feel proud, finally feel safe from criticism. The problem is perfection doesn't exist, so you set yourself up for constant disappointment. Every project, every effort, every attempt feels incomplete, no matter how much time or energy you pour into it. Instead of celebrating progress, you obsess over flaws, and the more you notice flaws, the more you reinforce the belief that you are never good enough. This habit damages confidence because confidence is built on action and progress, not on endless self-criticism. When you demand perfection, you rarely finish what you start because nothing feels ready. You hesitate to put yourself out there because you fear judgment. You delay opportunities waiting for the moment when everything is flawless, and that moment never comes. Each time you stall or hold back, you lose trust in yourself, and self-trust is the foundation of confidence. The cycle becomes exhausting. You work harder, chase an impossible standard, and instead of feeling proud, you feel inadequate. The more you chase perfection, the further you drift from the sense of accomplishment that builds real belief in yourself. Perfectionism also shifts the way you see mistakes. In a healthy mindset, mistakes are opportunities to learn, evidence that you are trying and growing. In a perfectionist mindset, mistakes are proof of failure, proof that you are not capable, proof that you are not enough. That perspective creates fear around even the smallest missteps. You become overly cautious, unwilling to experiment, unwilling to take risks, unwilling to step into situations where you might not excel immediately. That fear keeps your world smaller, and a smaller world means fewer chances to grow confidence. Another hidden cost of perfectionism is how it affects relationships. When you hold yourself to impossible standards, you often hold others to them too. That can create tension, disappointment, and frustration because no one can live up to perfection, not even you. Instead of connection and trust, relationships become another arena where you measure and critique. The lack of grace for yourself spills over into a lack of grace for others, and that constant critical lens damages both your self-esteem and your ability to build healthy connections. The pressure of perfectionism also takes a toll on your mental and emotional energy. You're not just doing the task, you're endlessly analyzing it, revising it, second-guessing it, worrying about how others will perceive it. That constant loop drains you. It makes you anxious and restless, and when your mind is stuck in that loop, there is no space left to feel confident. Confidence needs room to breathe, but perfectionism suffocates it under the weight of unrealistic expectations. Many times, perfectionism grows out of a fear of rejection or criticism. Somewhere along the way, you may have learned that being flawless was the only way to earn acceptance or avoid pain. You may have tied your worth to performance, thinking that as long as you delivered perfectly, no one could find fault in you. That belief takes root and follows you into school, work, and relationships until it becomes second nature. The tragedy is that it robs you of the joy of simply doing, of simply being, because everything becomes about achieving a flawless result. The irony of perfectionism is that it aims to create confidence by eliminating mistakes, but it ends up destroying confidence by eliminating growth. True confidence comes from facing challenges, making errors, and realizing that you are strong enough to move forward anyway. Perfectionism blocks that process. It tells you not to try unless success is guaranteed, and in doing so, it strips away the very experiences that prove your resilience. Instead of building a record of wins and lessons, you build a record of hesitation and doubt. Each time you demand perfection and fall short, you reinforce the belief that you are inadequate, and the weight of that belief compounds over time until your confidence feels like it no longer exists.